Hey guys, what is going on? Jurgen from ZurGrinoSports here, and today we are coming at you with the January 1st, 2021 edition of Smackdown Review. It feels weird saying 2021, but at least 2020 is in the rearview mirror, you know what I'm saying? 2020 is done with. Pretty awful year. It's good to get past it. And let's get into this review. So, again, at the start of the show, they aired the tribute graphic to Brody Lee, Luke Harper, John Huber. They didn't end up doing a video package, I don't think. I was late to starting SmackDown because I don't have... I have like the app that the companies offer to watch TV on. I don't have the actual cable or satellite or anything like that because why in 2020, 2021, you know what I mean? So I was having some internet thing that I had to sort out. So yeah, I didn't tune in until they were doing like that recap package of Roman and Kevin Owens, but from based on Twitter, they showed the tribute image, and then that was kind of it. They didn't do a video package, which is a little bit disappointing. But in fairness, AEW did a incredible tribute show and tribute package for Brody Lee on AEW this week. So if you haven't watched that, go check it out. I think they posted the ending segment of the show on Twitter where they awarded Brody Lee Jr. As the TNT champion for life, and then they also showed the whole tribute package on Twitter as well. So if you wanted to go check out AEW's Twitter, they have the tributes on there. It was very touching. It was very, very well done. It made me cry even more, and yeah, so go check it out. It was great. It was great. Rest in peace, John Huber. You will be missed. And yeah, man, let's get into this review. All right. So we started off the show with Roman. Again, 2 weeks in a row starting off with Roman. I think this goes back to the old adage, if you're not the main event, you want to be the first match, you know what I mean? Because that's what most people are going to see. People are going to tune in for the first segment, and then they're going to tune in for the main event. They might not tune in for the middle of the show, you know what I mean? Depending on how strong, you know what I mean? So, yeah, Roman starts off the show. And then he talks about how, as the face of WWE, he wants to wish everybody a happy new year. He said that 2020 was a rough year, but when you're the head of the table, the tribal chief, you make it work. He took credit for elevating Paul and Jay, pretty much making everything he touches turn into greatness kind of thing. He called Paul one of the most respectable, honorable, and honest men he's ever done business with, so that was funny. And then he took credit for Jay. He said he always believed in Jay, even way back in the day when it was Who Was You. He knew he was the main event Uso kind of thing. He said, as I told you, as long as you do what I say, listen to me, understand my thinking, you will be at the top. And that's what you did. You have barn burner after barn burner, main event after main event. This has been the best year of your career because you listen to me kind of thing. And Kevin Owens interrupts, his music plays, but Roman Reigns did something that I like because it fits in Roman Reigns' character. He didn't take kindly to being interrupted. Before Kevin Owens could even speak or anything or come down to the ring, as Kevin Owens is walking down, his music is playing. Roman Reigns is like, no, turn that music off, turn that shit off. No, nobody wants you out here, man. You had your chance, it's gone. You know what I mean? I gave you a chance to give your family a nice Christmas, and it's over. Nobody wants you out here. Nobody cares. Blah blah blah. So he cut off the interruption and made it about him again, saying how nobody really cares about Kevin Owens and stuff like that, which I really liked because it fits his character, so that was really good. And like I said, he says that Kevin Owens had his time, no one wants him there, so he should leave. And Kevin Owens kind of rebuttals and stuff. He's like, you know what? If you think about it, you and your family failed because I'm still standing here. Your main objective was to get rid of me, you know what I mean? And I'm still here. So he says that him and his family failed, and they should be embarrassed that he's still standing there when they, set out to make it so that was not the case. And then he set up a match with him and Jay. He also said that Roman should be embarrassed that Jay had to pull him off the ladder multiple times and then handcuff him to the cage so he could keep that championship. So it gives Kevin Owens, you know what I mean, for people who didn't watch the matches or people who watch the matches who are casual fans, it gives them the image that Kevin Owens, rightfully, because that's what they were trying to tell, that Kevin Owens should have probably won those matches within kayfabe without Jay getting involved. So it puts Kevin over, and then it puts over the whole family gimmick that they got going on with Roman and Jay. He also says it's apparent that the big dog is gone and the giant bitch is here. I like that wordplay. That was clever wordplay. And then Kevin Owens also ends the segment by saying, you know what? You don't want to deal with me, Roman. That's fine. I don't want to deal with you. I want Jay. I don't care who I have to talk to. I don't care if it's official or not. I'm fighting Jey Uso tonight, kind of thing. So yeah, very, very strong opening promo. Roman, once again in this role, is crushing it. And the thing that I am so annoyed about this Roman character that we're getting now is, where was this for 5 years? What the hell was Vince thinking, making him the fucking plucky, fucking sympathetic underdog babyface? Take one look at Roman Reigns. Nothing about him screams sympathetic babyface. Take one look at Roman Reigns. Dominant heel immediately comes to mind. Arrogant, better than thou character comes to mind. The dude's fucking like chiseled from stone. He's huge. He's an attractive dude. You know what I mean? He has all the physical attributes to fit that role where you're envious and you dislike him. And then if he plays into it character-wise, it fits so well. Nothing about him says sympathetic babyface with sufferin' succotash and kids rhymes promos and, oh, stack the deck against me, I'll come back. Bitch, you are the deck. Predisposed in most matches, the deck is stacked against the other people because look at them and look at you. You know, it's just, I don't get where Vince was coming from. I know he wanted a new face of the company, and the face of the company has to be a face because you need the fans to be behind them. But Roman is not that. Roman is the face of the company. Yeah, sure, he can be as a heel. He can't be, like, you know what I mean? Like, he can, it's just, I don't know. He can be the foil, I guess, of the company if you want to get technical like that. Because if you say face of the company, technically they have to be face. I mean, Stone Cold was a face, but until he turned heel, of course. But you know, a lot of people don't like to talk about his heel run. I don't know if it was good or not because once I wasn't watching. But yeah, I don't know. My biggest grievance with how good Roman is that we were robbed of more of Roman like this. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Great opening promo segment. Kevin Owens is an incredible promo. We all knew this already. And he's... another thing I'll say about this segment that I want to get across is I always really, really liked heel Kevin Owens. And I was always kind of not meh on face Kevin Owens, but like, okay, like he's doing fine, but it would be better if you turned him. In this feud, he's been an incredible babyface promo because he's not like white meat babyface where it's like, oh, I do this for the fans and this and that. It's, hey, you're a piece of shit. You're doing me wrong. I'm going to stand up for what's right. Even though, like, so you know what I mean? He's not like full on white meat babyface, but he's the babyface still, and he's cutting these great promos. He's cutting intense promos. He's really getting across that he wants to beat his ass. You know what I mean? Like sometimes somebody will cut a promo. It's like, oh, I'm going to beat your ass if it's the last thing I do, and you're like, brother, You're talking to him like you want to make love, you know what I mean? Like, there's no intensity, so it's just, yeah. Then we moved on to Big E versus Corbin. Sami Zayn was on commentary for this. Before the match started, he was talking about how how there was a documentary film in the works to cover the conspiracy that led to Sami losing the championship. He said that he was contacting Michael Moore, but he hasn't heard back from him, so I love that. Sami's just fantastic, man. But yeah, at some point in the match, Big E hit the big ending, and then Sami broke up the pin, causing a DQ. And then Sami and the Knights of the Lone Wolf, which are the two guys that were with Jackson Riker and the Forgotten Sons. One of them is Wesley Blake. One of them is Steve Cutler. I think those are the names, yeah. Yeah, though they started kind of beating down Big E, and then Apollo comes down for the save. And then you cut to commercial kind of thing after Apollo comes down for the save. And then we come back from commercial, and it's Apollo and Big E versus Sami and Corbin as made official, as sanctioned, I guess, by Adam Pearce, because he's kind of like that. Is his first name Adam? I just say Pearce. So, I think it's Adam Pearce, right? Yeah, okay, cool. One thing I didn't like about the Big E Corbin finish is commentary were saying how Sami saved Corbin from the big ending, but Corbin loses the match regardless. So they didn't, you know what I mean? He didn't save him from anything. If he fucking, that meme of the person crawling and then the military person's dropping that elbow drop on him at fucking, top velocity, you know what I mean? Like, if he did that to the ref while the ref's counting and then the match doesn't finish, okay, yeah, he saved him. But he causes a loss for Corbin regardless. So it's, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. It makes sense from a Sami perspective why they did that finish, because Sami doesn't want Big E looking strong. And then Sami can come back and say, oh, you didn't even win. You didn't even pin Corbin, dude. You got a DQ win that I gave you. You know what I mean? So they can play off of that. So it makes sense why Sami would do it. I just didn't like commentary saying that it saved Corbin, because Corbin loses either way. He gets a loss on his record either way. So it doesn't save him from anything, really, except for a definitive loss. But it's still a loss, because there's the asterisk that, the pin would have happened anyways without, you know what I mean? Anyways, it doesn't really matter. We get into Apollo and Big E versus Sami and Corbin. It's a good match. It's a fine match for TV. Obviously, you got some really talented people in there, so they're gonna do well in the time that they're allotted. There were spots like Knights getting heat by cheap shots to Apollo on the outside and stuff like that throughout. You know what I mean? That's just commonplace in wrestling. There was a Sami tagging himself in consistently throughout the match, causing Corbin to be like, what are you doing, man? Kind of a lot of the time. So that was something that was common. There was a point where there was tension between the Knights and Sami on the outside, which eventually led to Sami and Corbin having tension in the ring, where Corbin was kind of holding, I think it was Apollo in the corner. It would have been Apollo, yeah, because Apollo got the finish. He was holding Apollo in the corner for the haluva boot and haluva kick, and Sami stops himself after Apollo gets out of the way, and then attacks Apollo, and then Corbin's like, "Oh, you almost hit me," and then Sami's like, "I didn't though. What's your problem? Don't worry about it." And he's like, "Oh, you almost hit me, blah blah blah," and then the Knights get up on the apron, I think, or something, or come up to ringside. I can't really remember. And then they argue and shit like that. And then Corbin eventually leaves the match. He's like, where are you going? You know what? I don't need you. I don't need you, Corbin, kind of thing. And then he turns around and then he gets beat by Apollo Crews. I think it's unfortunate that Sami took the pin. You can't really have Big E take a pin, so that's out of the question. they do something a bit later, which, they can't have Apollo take the pin. Corbin, they're trying to build up, so they can't have him take the pin. So by process of elimination, it has to be Sammy for what they're doing, but, it's fine. Plus, it doesn't really hurt Sammy that much because he was coming off of, being distracted with an argument, and he was abandoned to be 2-on-1 kind of mentally, so Sammy can put over in a promo next week. Like, you know what? Hey, I was beaten 2-on-1, and then a face can put out, like, what do you mean? It was a tag match for, like, 90% of the match, and then you turned around and then you got beat before you could even experience 2-on-1, and then Sammy can rebuttal with, but mentally I was preparing for 2-on-1, so I was distracted and I was blindsided. You know what I mean? You can just have Sammy kind of like excuse his way through it, so it's fine. Also, I thought immediately when Apollo pinned Sammy, I'm like, oh, okay, Apollo push, because that's a clean win pretty much from Apollo onto Sammy, which is big. So that's pretty cool that they're thinking of doing something with Apollo. That's pretty cool. A good match. It achieved what it set out to achieve. So the show was pretty good so far. The show was doing pretty good so far. Excuse me as I turn my page. You know what I'm saying? Because I write my thoughts down so I don't forget stuff. They had a Pearce and KO backstage segment where Kevin Owens, pulled aside Adam Pearce, and he was like, listen, man, regardless of whether or not you set the match or you don't, I am going out there and I'm fighting and beating up Jey Uso. So if you could just make the match so it's official and I could beat him up during and after the match, that would be great. Pearce tells him, like, I can't. I have orders. I have to take orders. I can't. And then Kevin Owens did something that I really, really liked, and he called back on their history. He's like, taking orders? You can't do this? You can't. This isn't the Adam Pearce I've known for 15 years. You know what I mean? So I really love when wrestlers call back on history outside of the company. I really, really, really love when they do that, because it gives this, I don't know if gravitas is the word I'm looking for, but it gives this like weight to something, or to a promo, or to a statement. You know what I mean? So I really enjoy that. Then they go back and forth for a bit. Pearce says, you know what, pick a match with anybody on the roster besides Jey Uso, and I can do it. He's like, okay, Roman Reigns. He's like, come on, what are you doing to me? I can't make these matches. And then, Kevin Owens keeps, going at him kind of thing to make the match. And he's like, you know what, fine. Kevin Owens mentioned something interesting about how when Pearce was Kevin Owens' boss, he said that the people in the back didn't matter, the fans out there mattered, and he said, I could tell you sure as hell everybody watching this wants to see me beat Jay's ass, so make the match. And then Pearce eventually, is like, you know what, fine, you got your match. And then there we go. So that was a really nice backstage segment. Kevin Owens once again was very intense and really put over how much he wanted to beat the shit out of Jey Uso, which I really enjoyed. Kevin Owens is a great promo. Pearce did a great job as well in the promo. I never watched him on the indies when he was wrestling, so I don't know from prior experience if he is a good promo or not, but he did really well in his role here as that backstage, like, hands are tied, like, you know what I mean? Like, I have power, but even though I have power because of how big of a star Roman is, I kind of have to, like, accept his demands kind of thing, because he's that big of a deal. So my hands are tied, but I want to do the right thing and give you the match. He just really, he played that role of being that internal conflict, being between a rock and a hard place really, really well. So I enjoyed that segment. As small of a segment as it was, I really enjoyed it. There was a segment backstage after that of Big E and Apollo walking. They were memeing along. And then the interviewer comes along to do a Big E interview. Big E cuts a promo, which eventually ends up leading to him saying that Next week he's going to start an open challenge for the wow, I'm having a stroke. Intercontinental Championship. So Apollo kind of went off to the side for the interview. Apollo, as soon as Big E finishes saying open challenge for the Intercontinental Championship, Apollo immediately comes back into camera shot, and then he says, and I will accept that match right now. He mentions how it's only fair considering he essentially helped Big E win the championship last week, because obviously Apollo did that thing where he fucking ran up the stage and tackled Sammy in a very great visual that I really, really enjoyed, that I mentioned last week. It was a fantastic visual. And then they set up this kind of like, there's tension, but it's not tension. You know that thing where people are like jokingly taking digs at each other and like playing it off as just being playful, but like you can tell there's something deeper there. That's what they're starting to build with Big E and Apollo, which I think would be a good first feud for Big E if that's where they're going. It frees up Sammy to move on to Daniel Bryan, which they teased last week. There was no tease of it this week, but it frees Sammy up to do that as well. Or it could lead to Sammy maybe screwing him out of the title, and then Big E wins it back emphatically, and then Big E has a long reign if they wanted to do one of those things where the babyface finally gets that goal that they've been searching for, and then it immediately gets taken away, and then they eventually, when they get it again, they keep it for a long time. They could do that. I don't know if I'd enjoy that, at face value. If they do it well, obviously it can be enjoyable, but they have an option to do that. They have an option to just do Big E and Apollo in like a short or medium length feud with the build up to the first match. Not the open challenge, but maybe have like the open challenge be a retention, and then have them build up to a match at Rumble for the title where it's still two baby faces, and then maybe have Apollo finally turn heel, have another match at Elimination Chamber or Fastlane or whatever the middle pay-per-view is between Rumble and Mania, unless they have both Chamber and Fastlane, which I think they do. I think they have two pre-Mania pay-per-views these days, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. So yeah, that match next week for the Intercontinental title should be very good. Both guys are really good wrestlers, and they have a lot of storyline potential with what they're doing with them, so I like that as well. Then we had Riot Squad versus Billy Kay and a mystery opponent, which ended up not being Billy Kay and a mystery opponent. It ended up being Tamina coming out first, and I'm like, oh, they already did Tamina, what? And then Natty came out, and then Billy Kay's like, oh, I'm the manager now. Oh, okay. And then she just kind of like went into the role of like cheering them on kind of thing. There was a point where Billy was trying to encourage Tamina or Natty on the inside, and Natty and Tamina, one of them on the apron, one of them in the ring, turned around and was like, yo, fuck off, shut up, we don't want your help. Then she kind of switched over to the Riot Squad where Ruby was getting some offense, and she was like cheering for Ruby, and Ruby was like, what the fuck are you doing over here, man? Fuck off. And then she switched back to Tamina and Natty kind of thing. Tamina had Liv up on her shoulder for something, I think. And then Billy from like the steps was like, yo, Tamina, do this, and which distracted Tamina enough for Liv to get a roll up on Tamina, win for the Riot Squad, and then Billy was like, oh, I'm going to go celebrate with the Riot Squad. I really like this. I like this a lot. Tamina and Natty don't need wins in 2021. Tamina... I'm not a fan of Tamina. I don't think she really does too much too well. She has the size to make her different on the roster and be that, immovable force kind of thing, or unstoppable object kind of thing, you know what I mean, from that. They tried to build one of those feuds with Nia and Tamina like 2 years in a row at SummerSlam, or Survivor Series, I think, or in the Rumbles and stuff, and like they just didn't get reactions either time because nobody cares about either because they're not that great. But... you know what I mean? Tamina's fine, whatever. She's just not really good, in my opinion. I don't like her. Maybe a gimmick change might freshen her up, but I don't know if they'd be willing to do that. because they just kind of got like the stoic big person, large person, strong person, the giant. There we go. Finally, I was fucking searching for the word giant in my head, and I was like, fuck, let me describe it until I find the word, because wow, okay. If you're wondering, I'm recording this as soon as I woke up on the 2nd of January because I didn't have time, or I didn't have a chance to record it right after the show, which I typically do. So yeah, I'm still kind of waking up. My brain's still warming up, brother. But yeah, I like this segment. Tamina and Natty don't need wins in 2021. Natty has accomplished a lot already, and she's just character-wise, she's just very bland and boring. So there's nothing to get behind for her. She's still really good in the ring, so she can be counted on to have a great match with somebody, make somebody look good. But I think maybe her time in her career is now in that stage where it's her job to kind of put over the other women on the roster. And I think Tamina is there to serve that purpose as well. So you know what I mean. Riot Squad, both Ruby and Liv are doing really good right now. I'm really enjoying them character-wise and in-ring wise. I'm really happy that Liv got the win. She got the pin because I think that they can be doing a lot more with Liv. I think Liv has a lot of potential on the roster. I think she's a really I think from a character point of view, she does really well, and she can get better. And I think in the ring, she's at a good enough level right now to have matches. She's not like she was in NXT where she was still really raw, but she is, or really green, I guess I should say. Raw I use in football as a term just to have like raw talent, not defined, so inconsistent talent, but I guess green is the term that you would use in wrestling, right? Maybe I'll still use raw because I'm just used to using that when I talk about talents in football. But anyways, Liv has improved, and she's still so young that she can still improve a bunch in the ring, and she has been improving. You can tell just whenever you watch her wrestle, you can tell something's improved. So she's constantly improving. So I think they have a lot of potential there with Liv. I like them doing the Riot Squad for now. I think they should do the Riot Squad for as long as it stays entertaining, and then eventually you could have the Riot Squad break up, because when they broke up the Riot Squad through the draft, right? That's what they did when they broke them up last time. It was way too soon because the Riot Squad was still a good act. You know what I mean? So it's good that they're back together without Sarah Logan, but I think she's pregnant or something, right? Or she got released in that mass release in March, right? Or something like that. Maybe she got rehired and she's pregnant or something, or maybe she's injured. I don't really know. I just know that she's not on TV for some reason. I don't know if she's with the company still or not, because I'm pretty sure she was part of that release, but I think she did get hired back. So maybe it's an injury or something. I couldn't tell you, honestly. But I would assume that when she gets back, if she's still employed, they might put the whole 3-person trio back together. If not, Ruby and Liv is a great partnership. You could have them be the babyface tag team in the division if you wanted, which is great. And then they could have some great matches, because obviously the long-term plan for the women's tag team titles is not Charlotte and Asuka. It can't be. They're both, top of the card women's wrestlers. You can't really have them in the tag, like, you want to make the tag titles feel important, but it's not so much that you can just put main eventers with the tag titles to make them important long term. You can put the main eventers with the tag titles to be like, oh shit, those titles exist. They're worth watching. If you put the main people with the tag titles, people might watch the tag title match and then be like, oh shit, there are good tag teams. So it puts eyes on it, but you need to consistently have them defended and have, good shit, put in good shit to get out good results. So plus, you don't really want to tie down Asuka and Charlotte to the tag titles when you can be doing really, really good, one-on-one feuds, singles feuds, or triple threat feuds, or whatever you want to do for the women's title. So, yeah. Also, most importantly of all from this segment, Billie Kay is fantastic. I would love to see her as the fucking manager for the Riot Squad in a, they don't want her there, but she just kind of tags along kind of thing. If they wanted to do that, I'd be fully on board, because I think Billie Kay is great. I think what they might be doing with Billie, though, is holding off for Eva Marie, because I'm pretty sure Eva Marie is signed again already, and they're just kind of waiting to put her back on TV. So I think maybe they're just holding off until Eva Marie's ready and they're ready to have Eva back on TV. And then maybe they can put Eva Marie with Billie Kay and then have them as another tag team for the women's tag titles in that division. But yeah, I like the segment for what it was. So yeah, another good segment on SmackDown. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty good. Then we had Sasha and Bianca versus Carmella and Bayley. They got rid of Carmella's entrance, which I really don't like. I'm hoping that it was because it was a tag team match, maybe, and they're like, you know what, let's not do it for the tag team match, or maybe it's just going to be a pay-per-view or a big match thing. If they permanently got rid of Carmella's beginning part of her entrance with like the curtain and whatever, I will be really disappointed, because it made her unique. It put eyes on her. If somebody just has a regular entrance, you know what I mean, for the most part, you're going to be like, oh, whatever. But if they have this extravagant, intricate entrance, eyes are directly drawn on. Imagine Chris Masters back in 2005 without the flexing at the top of the ring like that fucking, like the statue. You know what I mean? Who cares? If it's just this fucking jacked fucking muscly dude who's fucking yoked, brother, who cares? But it's this dude who's doing this fucking, fucking muscle bodybuilding competition poses at the top of the stage to orchestral music before he comes down to the ring. Your eyes are immediately drawn on him. I feel like we were getting the same effect with Carmella, because she had the silhouette through the reflection of the curtain or whatever, and she was doing her poses and shit like that, and it's like, oh, and the music is good too, and it's like, oh shit, this is unique, this is different, this feels big, this feels important. Put our eyes on that. If they took that away permanently, I'm going to be really disappointed, because I think that was something that they were knocking out of the park. The match itself was good. Again, I mean, you got talented people in the match. Bianca has all the tools to be a top star in the company. So, she's still, like, she just needs time and experience and to be given the ball to run with. So Bianca is fantastic. Sasha obviously is incredible. Bayley in the ring is great. I've mentioned it before, I think. I've never been sold on Bayley as the complete package. I didn't really like the inflatable tube men gimmick where she was like the wrestling fan who became a wrestler kind of thing. You know what I mean? I never really resonated with that. Her new Karen gimmick, I don't really particularly like that much. I don't think she's a very strong promo. But in the ring, she's incredible. So, you know what I mean? Once again, when it comes to the match, this match was always going to be good. They had a spot where, if you remember last week, Bianca put her hair in the ring for Sasha to grab onto so she could like rope her in and then tag her in. They did that spot again, except for Bayley intercepted the hair this time, so I thought that was cool. A little bit of continuity there. There was a spot where Mella was in the bank statement. Reginald slides into the ring, drags her out kind of thing. And then gets in the ring and sizes up Sasha like he's going to fucking square up with Sasha. And I was like, hey, yo, WWE, is this how you want to start 2021? Man versus woman fighting? Is that... Please don't do this. Please, maneuver your way out of this. And then when Sasha kind of takes a step towards him, he does this Cirque du Soleil fucking flippity-doo-dah out of the ring, which looked very impressive, which... Yeah, yo, Reggie, I know you're not watching this, but if you ever watch this, fucking... props, brother, because that looked impressive. So he did some of that shit and Cirque du Soleil out of the ring. Then they kind of delayed the finish with Reginald, distracting whatever, you'd think, okay, Sasha's going to turn around into a finish with Carmella. They teased it, then they delayed it by having Sasha kind of fight back, and then Sasha getting some big offense off again, and then Reginald gets back up on the apron and is like, hey, and then Sasha turns around to slap him, then turns around into like a float over Mella Buster, which looked really fucking cool, and then 1, 2, 3, Carmella gets the win and pins Sasha. So it looks like they're going to go towards another match for the women's title between those two. The match quality was pretty good. I think obviously having somebody pin the champion obviously sets up a match in the future, so they set up the title match between them. It's kind of weird though, because it's a little bit backwards because they've already had the title shot, you know what I mean? So I feel like at this point where you've already had the first title match, they don't have the rematch clause to lie on anymore, so they can't just be like, actually, you know what, Sasha retained the title, so they don't have the rematch clause at all, even if it was still in effect. But you could just have Carmella just like have like a heelish excuse and find a way to get another match, do a personal attack, and make it a personal rivalry that makes Sasha win. But they did that already. They're kind of doing the reverse of the feud, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, so like it maybe would have made more sense if Carmella got a win against Sasha in the build up to their first match and then did the attacks afterwards to set up the second match. You know what I mean? It's like a two pay-per-view feud that they're building, but the first pay-per-view build is being used for the second match, and the second pay-per-view build was used for the first match. Granted, the build I thought was fine. I thought the build was okay. It was good enough. Like the promos were good. You're invested in both people leading up to TLC, so I thought that was fine. But the way that they built it was, okay, it's just going to be a one-off, and then Sasha's going to move on to somebody else for Rumble. But now they're still going to Carmella, which I do have a problem with because Carmella's already lost steam from the first title match, so she shouldn't win this second match. So they're just going to deflate Carmella even more, even though she has a good gimmick and she has a good character right now. So they're kind of running the risk of already ruining Carmella for me, which I don't like because I like her character. They've already gotten rid of her entrance, which I mentioned, which I don't like. And then they're doing this thing where it's probably going to be another Sasha retention, which I don't think Sasha should lose the title. Just have her retain against somebody else. Because 2 title match losses in a row for Carmella are going to just do some damage to her build. If you remember back to when Shinsuke was feuding against Jinder, Shinsuke was like, he wasn't white hot because they made him do that rivalry with Dolph. So to the casual viewers, he wasn't doing anything too special. But to the hardcore viewers, it was like, oh, it's Shinsuke. He's on the main roster. We get to fantasy book Shinsuke and AJ and all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, okay, he's going to lose multiple title matches against Jinder Mahal. And it's like, oh, okay, that deflates their push completely. So I'm worried that they're they're running the risk of deflating Carmella's push a lot, which is a shame because I think they struck kind of gold with whatever her new gimmick is. Not whatever her new gimmick is, it's pretty definable, but you know what I mean? So her new gimmick, I think, is they're running the risk of not doing too much great with Carmella. So I hope that they navigate it carefully and they don't ruin Carmella because I really don't want to see Sasha lose the title. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's the match was fine. I think the finish served its purpose because they want to extend the rivalry, but I'm not really on board with Carmella getting another loss, and I don't think Carmella should win the title now after the first loss. So it's a tricky one for me personally. Another thing that should maybe be mentioned is Sasha on weekly TV doesn't look too strong typically, and you'd feel like they would want their champions to look strong on TV typically. But, whatever. It is what it is. We'll see where it goes because Smackdown over the past couple months has been doing some long-term storytelling to some degree. So if the end point is good enough and this makes sense by the end, I won't be as annoyed. The problem with WWE is they do all these things that just don't end up meaning anything, and then that's where the frustration kicks in, you know? So it is what it is. We had a backstage segment with Roman after they announced on the program that Jay and Kevin Owens in the main event was made official. He tells Paul, he talks about, you know, after everything I've done for this company, they still don't appreciate me and they don't listen to what I say. And then he tells Paul to go find out who it was who made the match and who doesn't appreciate him and his family, kind of thing. So once again, great backstage segment for Roman, getting him over, getting his character over, stuff like that. Then we had a backstage segment where Sonya Deville was walking backstage, so she's back. I saw Sean Ross Sapp report that he asked about her recently, and the news was still that she was a few months out of returning. So apparently this was a surprise to even journalists like him. So that's pretty cool that they kept it secret. On the flip side, they kind of wasted her return by just having her walk backstage, because she didn't come out and cut a promo or anything. She didn't get involved in anything. She just kind of walked backstage. So it's like, oh, okay, like they're back, but like, is that it? You know what I mean? So if she could have cut a promo or something being like, hey, yo, I'm reinstated, you know, and this division's mine now, so watch out, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I think they could have maybe done more with her return, but it is really cool to see her back. Obviously, she had that, you know, personal trauma with the dude stalking her and like breaking into her house or whatever happened. So I didn't expect her back this soon. So it's cool that she's ready to be back. But again, I feel like maybe they could have done something more impactful on the show with her to bring her back. But we'll see what they do next week with Sonya. See if they give her maybe just like a quick match to get a win under her belt again, or if maybe they'll push her into something big right off the bat. We'll have to wait and see. There was a Street Profits promo where they had a New Year's Day smoketacular. They were talking about they recapped their 2020, talking about how they won both titles and they beat New Day at Survivor Series and blah blah. They were putting themselves over, recapping their 2020. And then they had like a big surprise reveal. They had like a covering something. They uncovered it. It was a drum set, and Dawkins played the drums, which was whatever. Once again, I'm one of the people who thinks that Dawkins is kind of preventing Montez Ford from being as big of a star as he can be. But at the same time, Montez Ford is a very small individual, and I feel like if he was a single star, Vince would ruin him immediately. So I feel like in terms of showcasing your talents, Dawkins maybe is holding Montez back. But in terms of being given opportunities, maybe Dawkins is helping Montez, because Dawkins is that stockier guy. You know what I mean? And as a tag team, you can kind of get away with being a smaller guy because you can have that bigger guy to counteract it. I feel like Vince just wouldn't give Montez anything as a singles guy. He's not giving Ricochet anything as a singles guy, and they're similar build. They're both very talented, both very athletic. So you know what I mean? So, you know, two sides of the same coin, I guess, is what's going on with Street Profits. But anyways, then they had Montez go through the Street Profits 2021 predictions. He said that the T-shirt that the Profits made saying "I was Intercontinental Champion" would be the best-selling shirt of 2021. And then he gives a wink to the camera, which Kevin Dunn fucking switched to the wrong camera. They had the camera on the apron from like the corner, and then Montez winked at it, right? And you could see it because they switched to another camera that showed him winking to that camera, but they didn't switch to the camera that he winked at. What was Kevin Dunn doing? Did he just press the wrong button, or is he fucking missing a few marbles? Then Profits. Montez was talking about how Dolph Ziggler has been ripping off Shawn Michaels his whole career, kind of thing, and that he'll finally get the nickname the Heartache Kid in 2021. And then before the third one happens, the Dirty Dogs, Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler, ambush, beat down, assault, whatever you want to call it, Street Profits. And specifically, they targeted Montez's knee. Obviously, Montez has maybe the best frog splash in wrestling right now. It's a fucking thing of beauty, brother. The elevation he gets on it, the form is just, I don't know how people can make their bodies react like that in the air. You know what I mean? It's just, it's like, fuck. He has a great frog splash. So they focused Montez's knee pretty much with some chair shots against the post to his knee and stuff like that. And I really liked the intensity of Dolph and Bobby Roode. I think this is a feud where it's a foregone conclusion. I don't know if they would be willing to end the Profits tag team reign, because there's not really anyone else on the tag team division on SmackDown. I mean, you have Cesaro and Shinsuke, but do we really want them stuck in the tag division? So I think maybe they might go with Gable and Otis, maybe put them together as a tag team, get the tag titles on them eventually, but that remains to be seen. Me personally, I don't think they'll put the titles on Roode and Ziggler. If they do, I'd be okay with it. I'm a big fan of Bobby Roode. I'm a big fan of Dolph. I think Dolph could have had a much different career without the concussions and without WWE losing trust in him because of those concussions, I guess. But I really like the intensity of Ziggler and Roode, because when you have a feud that's kind of a foregone conclusion, you want to at least enjoy it while it's told. And I think people putting in really good performances like that, like showing such intensity to get themselves over and get comeuppance for whatever, and if somebody's that intense about something, it puts over what they're doing. So if you're that intense about the tag titles, it puts over the tag titles, because a casual person will be like, oh wow, these dudes are fucking livid. They're intense as hell to get those tag titles. Maybe those tag titles mean something. You know what I mean? So I think they're doing a pretty good job with that intensity of the ambush. Then they had a Roode and Ziggler backstage interview where Ziggler says that the Profits provoked that attack. Roode says the assault was on their hands and that they won't stop until they get their rematch at their titles. They call them their titles. So, yeah, looks like that's where they're going. Profits, I think, probably retain, but if they can make the actual build-up interesting and enjoyable like I think they did tonight, I'm A-okay. I'm all for it. Give Profits another title retention, or maybe you want to pull a little plot twist on us, give the titles to Roode and Ziggler so that they can drop them to maybe babyface Gable and Otis in the future. I don't know. Speaking of Gable and Otis, they had Bryan and Otis versus Shinsuke and Cesaro in a tag match. They were like, oh, here's how this match came about, right? And then they showed before, like, earlier footage of Bryan being trained by Otis and Gable for the Rumble, and this maybe was my favorite segment of the night, just from a comedic standpoint, because so Bryan's kind of doing this like Kurt Angle, hey, I'm gonna be goofy, but when I get in that ring, I'm gonna fuck you up kind of thing. From the 2000s, from the early 2000s, not really mid 2000s, because he was at like Wrestling Machine in the mid 2000s. But anyways, they had Gable sitting on the turnbuckle, encouraging him. They had Otis just sitting there, no selling everything, and they had Bryan have Otis in a waist lock, and he was thrusting the hips like he was going in for a German, right? And they were just like, yep, work the hips, train the hips, work the hips. And it was just pretty much Bryan just thrusting while having Otis in a waist lock. And they were just ultra serious about it because they're training for the Rumble. It was a fantastic segment. I loved it. Cesaro and Shinsuke interrupted to be like, what are you doing? Training for the Rumble. And then they mock Bryan, and then basically they're like, oh, and that's why Bryan teamed up with Otis tonight. So, yeah. I like them having Bryan involved with Gable because I think seeing somebody lower down on the card in a segment with somebody up on the card elevates them a little bit, you know what I mean? If it's done right. So I just want them to do something big with Gable, man. Gable is literally Kurt Angle 2.0. I'll say it again and again and again. They should be doing so much more with Gable, but they're not. I'm hoping that this is the start of it. I'm hoping that this is the start of a long-term build of Gable, you know what I mean? Have him train Otis, have him and Otis be tag champions for a while, and then maybe have him split up from Otis, turn heel if you want, or maybe Otis turns heel and then Gable as a resilient babyface wins the feud, or vice versa. You could have Gable turn heel and then win the feud anyways, to put him over as a vicious heel kind of thing, and then maybe give him a run with the US or Intercontinental title, whichever brand that he's on, whichever title is there. Give him a long run with that mid-card title, and then if he performs in that environment, fuck it, give him the world title, because I think he's somebody who can be a great world champion. So yeah, hopefully him and Otis is the start of a long-term, multi-year thing to get Gable in that main event scene, because I would love that. So yeah, the match itself was really good, obviously. I mean, you got Bryan, you got Shinsuke, you got Cesaro. Otis did a discus lariat in honor of Brody Lee. Bryan and Cesaro had Brody Lee armbands on, so nice of them to pay tribute to Brody Lee in the match. Bryan submitted Shinsuke to get the win. So I'm fine with Bryan winning because his whole story going into the Rumble is that he wants to win the Rumble. He's training to win the Rumble. That's his goal. They need to make him look good going into the Rumble. Whether or not they have him win the Rumble remains to be seen. If they want to do him and Roman at Mania, then obviously he'll probably win the Rumble, which would be cool. We know he's getting to the end of his career because he's signing a part-time contract coming up, right? After his new one's, or maybe he just signed a part-time contract, or when his current one's expiring, he's signing a part-time one. Something like that. He's not going to be full-time for much longer. He's near the end of his career, probably in ring. So maybe they're like, you know what? We'll give you a Rumble win. Maybe he requested it. And then they'll do him and Roman, Bryan and Roman at Mania, because on Talking Smack, they had Bryan, talk to Paul and be like, hey, Paul, I'm a better wrestler than Roman. Any day of the week, I will beat him in a match. And they had they had Paul sell that he was genuinely worried about a Bryan challenge to Roman's title, because Paul didn't say anything. Paul was just acting like scared kind of thing, like, oh, please don't challenge Roman kind of thing, you know what I mean? So they had that going on. Then they had a synchronized hip movement thing at the end of the match, after the match, to put over, I guess just as a comedic thing. Then they had a backstage thing where Heyman just quickly tells Roman that it was Pierce who made the match, so that is what it is. And then we had KO versus Jey Uso in the main event. Kevin Owens won the match. It was a good match, but they're getting back to that point that I mentioned last week, personally for me, where they're getting to that point where they need to give Jey another big win, because you can't, granted, he didn't really need to look too strong for this match, because the whole story coming into this match was, regardless of the outcome, the match wasn't about who won the match. The match was about Kevin Owens beating the fuck out of Jey Uso, right? So like it's fine. It's just if they want to keep putting Jey in these main event matches and stuff like that, again, this week is different. It's not about who wins the match. It's not about, oh, if you win the match, you earn this and this and that. So the match result didn't really matter. The whole thing was Kevin Owens beats the hell out of Jey Uso, regardless of if there's a match even announced, whatever, that's fine. So it doesn't really count for this week. But they need to give him a big win, because if next week they have like a match where it's, oh, if you beat Jey Uso, you get to fight Roman for the title kind of thing, and Roman's banned from ringside, it's kind of a foregone conclusion. Jay's not going to win. But if you would have given Jey a big win this week or something, or maybe give Jey a big win next week and then do that whole shtick the week after, then maybe it's like, oh, okay, well, Jey just beat fucking, I don't know, Sami Zayn. Or Jey just beat, Sami's a heel, but Jey just beat fucking, this and that and this big face and stuff like that. Then it's like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Maybe he will win, and maybe Kevin Owens will have to find another way to get to Roman again at Rumble or something. But it's just they're running the risk of deflating what they did with Jey. They elevated Jey, but they keep giving him loss after loss after loss. You need to give him a win again, in my opinion, just to get him back. A couple wins, ideally, but at least one big win, just to be like, okay, he can still win these matches. Because regardless of how good the matches are, if you keep having him lose, at the end of the day, you're like, okay, they're doing this, and like, yeah, but, I mean, he's going to lose. So what's the point? You know what I mean? But anyways, regardless, this week it's acceptable, because once again, for the third time or however many times I've said it, it wasn't about, oh, win the match, earn this. It was, hey, I'm gonna beat your ass whether it's a match or not. I'm getting my hands on you tonight, and I'm beating your ass. So they had that going, and then they had him beat down Jey after the match, like he said he would, throughout the arena kind of thing. He tells Roman, he grabs the commentary headset, because I guess obviously that he knows that Roman watches on the TV in the back, so he's hearing the commentary. I guess he's seeing the feed of the show that we're seeing. He gets on the commentary headset and he's like, Roman, come take care of your family, bitch, which I really liked. He handcuffs Jey to the top rope and beats him, waits for Roman, nothing. Then they go up near the entrance and kind of into where the panels are that have the fans on them, the Thunderdome fan, electronic panels. And then Kevin Owens lays Jey out on a table back there, and then he steps up onto like the stadium stairs that the shit's put on, you know what I mean? That the screens are put on, and he looks like he's gonna go dive through him. Roman ambushes him up there. Jey recovers, and then it's a double team on Kevin Owens, which ends up with Kevin Owens being thrown through the table by Roman Reigns. And that's how we end off the show. Another good Smackdown. I enjoyed it. Not as good as last week, because last week was fucking lights out, really good. Maybe like a 7 or 8 out of 10. It was very good, but they had a couple things that I'm like curious, like why, you know what I mean? Like commentary putting over that Sami saved Baron Corbin, Big E Corbin. But excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe an 8 out of 10, maybe a 7 to 8 out of 10. I thought it was good. I did think it was good. So yeah. Am I still recording? My screen just went black. Like my screen just like went sleep. But like I have something running. Okay, I think my audio's still good. Okay, that's interesting. That's weird. Yeah. So that was SmackDown. Again, yeah, thought it was good. Probably a 7 or 8 out of 10, maybe 7.5 out of 10 or something like that. Just because they had some backwards booking kind of thing. Jey gets another loss, which is fine again for this week. But if they continue doing it, they're running the risk of a lot of things. They're running the risk of ruining Carmella early. They already took away her entrance kind of thing. So, yeah, maybe 7.5 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10 in that range of SmackDown. But let me know what you guys thought. Did you think it was a higher rated show than I thought? Did you think it was lower rated? Do you agree or disagree with me on some points? Let me know down in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video, that's great, man. Maybe you'll enjoy some of my gameplay stuff that I do on the channel, which you can check out at the end cards at the end of the video. If you would like to help me in the channel out, there will be a link to my Patreon. First link in the description where you can head over there, get yourself some perks for that monthly subscription, I guess you would call it. And that'd be cool if you can. If you can't, it's okay. No worries. And yeah, man, follow me on Twitter. Link in the description. Please sponsor me peace tea. You know what I'm saying? We don't really drink the peace teas during these reviews. But you know what I'm saying? We be drinking them a lot in the gameplays, brother. So please sponsor me. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an episode, because YouTube likes to zuck your boy and not put my videos in your sub boxes. So by pressing that nice old bell icon, you'll get a push notification anytime I do upload, and you'll never have to miss it. And yeah, man, if you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, share to all your friends, comment down below, all that good shit. And I'll see you guys next time.